Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people, everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I am proud to introduce you to Phil Teague, co-founder and CEO of Rectify, who is a passionate entrepreneur who believes that he has discovered the secret to shifting the world towards adoption of using solar energy in every home. Phil, I have to tell you, that is indeed a worthwhile goal, but it would be quite a shift for the world of energy to move toward solar energy. So tell me, how did all this get started?
Well, Star, I started working in an oil refinery in December 2006, and I literally had $125 to my name. In the first few weeks of my employment there, I was living out of my car in rest stops and in Walmart parking lots. And because I had a $60,000 student loan debt that I had to repay in January, I was very grateful for the opportunity to work there, despite some conflicts I had with the industry. And in reality, I really enjoyed my time working there and the people there as well. But in the fourth year, working in a refinery, that changed a little bit. Okay. See, my job was to analyze crude oil. And one day I got this new sample that was much different than all the rest. You see, crude oil is actually about chocolate milk thick normally. Mm. And this new crude oil was actually like cold fudge thick.
Wow.
So you can imagine my surprise when I first discovered it. And so I did some research and I found out this crude oil was from the tar sands of Alberta. Have you heard of that?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I found out was that the extraction process was the clear cutting of the virgin boreal forest. And whenever the project would be fully completed, it would encompass the entire land masses of Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, and half of Michigan.
Wow.
And whenever I put myself in that perspective, I realized like I could be driving 16 hours through a crater of our own creation. Mm. And I was done at that point. I mean, I was so pissed about it. And I wasn't raised an environmentalist growing up. I was actually just raised a country boy. But something about this just triggered me to be so wrong. And I felt like I had to do something about it. And so I shifted all my free time to learn everything I could about sustainability, energy, business, and solar. About the same time, my brother Frank and I were tossing around the idea about starting our own solar company. Mm-hmm. And he was working for the first publicly traded solar company called Akina Solar back then.
So Phil, obviously you did end up starting your company. What lessons did you learn along the way?
So Frank's idea of starting a company together compelled me enough to where I thought I should get my hands dirty. And what I had to do is I had to travel out to meet him out in California. I did some hands-on training. And then I got an entry-level certificate to do solar myself. But then one day I was at church and my pastor started talking about the first chapter of Genesis, where God put Adam into the Garden of Eden to work and keep the land. And whenever you look at the root words to work and keep, you can also translate that to mean to serve and to protect. And this is the basis of the definition of stewardship. And that was compelling. But being a scientist by trade, I needed some concrete evidence to convince myself even further. And so while I was researching about electricity, I found this simple secret about energy that I'd like to share with you today, if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay. So get this. The entire universe at the beginning of time was created, and everything since evolved using a fundamental law to use a single type of electrical force to do its work in energy transfer. Every atom, every single molecule, and every single cell, and everything living and non-living uses this energy source. Hmm. This type of energy is called direct current, or also known as DC. I was reflecting on these concepts I learned from the science side and applying it to the spiritual side that I was learning also. And this word rectify came into my heart. And then I just had to confirm the definition, and it just totally made sense for everything I was researching. Rectify, which means to make right, to correct wrong. And it also means to convert AC to DC. And that's when I knew my path. That's when I was like, holy cow, I know what I got to do now. I have to do what God provided to me, this gift, and correct the wrongs and help provide us a path to shift towards a sustainable future.
How challenging, Phil, was it for your family when you left that very secure job to diving headfirst into the unknown with very little experience?
It was very challenging. I experienced what I learned is called the trifecta of insanity, which is, a new job, moving, and kids, and what should say, kids and marriage and everything. And also, most of my family's low income, and so like they thought this idea of me quitting like this job making six figures, a guaranteed pension, and retirement, that I could be a millionaire. In reality, that's very understandable from their perspective. Being a first-time business owner, I really had no clue how much work and time it really required to build a company. But I was committed to the path and mission. I did whatever it took.
Mm-hmm. As an entrepreneur myself, I know that there's some ups and downs for every single new business. So, Phil, what stumbling blocks did you face?
So yeah, totally. Like gaining sales and credibility early on was an absolute challenge. I remember one day I'm going to some guy's house in the first year, and he asked me, "What are you, some fly-by-night company?" And I was like, "Well," I had to accept that as a possibility. Mm. And that further helped me to commit to it, to do what's required to make my company successful, because I did not ever have that concept associated with me. But like as you know, working as an entrepreneur, you have to work long hours. And that for me turned into me, honestly, unfortunately, drinking too much, not prioritizing my connection with myself and God of my why. And a few years later, tariffs are added on nearly every component of the solar system. Utilities started telling us that we couldn't install solar for them. And nationwide, the net metering policies across the country started changing. Mm-hmm. Then after all that, my wife filed for divorce. And when I took a good look at myself and took ownership in providing solutions to these problems and stopped playing victim and applied the rectified concepts of making things right across all areas of my life, things started shifting. I could finally see the future that I wanted to create. I committed to saving my marriage at any cost with integrity. I picked up meditation. I started working out daily. And to eliminate this uncertainty, I decided that I'd only offer future-proof solutions. And with this new mindset, I started seeing the possibility of the application of that second definition of rectify. Do you remember what that was? Mm-hmm. To convert AC to DC. And I wanted to create something that was future-proof. And since God created the DC from the beginning, the future-proof path must be to replicate that in the future. And so we started only offering DC-based solutions to bring that DC power from the roof to the ground, to future-proof what's yet to come.
Sounds like you took a setback and turned it into a setup for success. So tell me, what have been your results?
Well, I realized I couldn't do this alone. The hole I created in my life was too big. And so I hired a coach. And he helped me, lead me to see for myself where I was choosing to make poor decisions and to make strategic changes in my behaviors in my life, with my wife, and in my business. And the results since then have been huge. I've lost 20 pounds. My wife dropped divorce, and we now have a deeper and more connected marriage than we'd ever before. The connection with my children is absolutely on fire. I walk with God now with tears in my eyes in all of his creation. And I finally realized I'm enough. In 2019, I won the Midwest Energy News 40 Under 40. Yes. This past year, we've gained 50% in growth in revenue this past year. We just crossed 1,000 installs across Indiana and California.
For you.
If we've have a strategic project with Purdue University to innovate and integrate a future-proof energy solution which fulfills my definite chief aim.
That definite chief aim. So I am inquisitive. You've spoken about this. So explain what it is and how you plan to accomplish it.
So definite chief aim is a similar way to say my purpose, but with something that's specific and measurable outcome. And so 2 years ago, after I made this shift to offering only DC-based solutions, Purdue University reached out to me, and they had a project where they were partnered up with various original equipment manufacturers. And what we've done is create a brand new category which will affect the world of energy. Okay. What we've done is that we've taken a 1920s home, which was fed by AC power, just like everybody else, and retrofitted it with the most cutting-edge technology available. In this new home, all of its appliances are all powered by solar and batteries using DC. In this new category, utilizing the DC coupled energy to architecture provides the opportunity for even more innovation and sustainable products and solutions across the utility, electronics, commercial, and residential housing sectors. The world of energy and electricity can now completely shift towards the most sustainable path because it replicates and utilizes the energy source and fundamental laws, which are old as time itself.
Well, there is no question that solar energy is the most plentiful, accessible, and least expensive power source in the world. So what are your goals for the future? And actually, how do you plan to further the goals of Rectify, knowing that?
So using this Purdue project as a baseline to grow from, and the project prototype is complete. And we're just waiting on a few different pending governmental approvals. And once that happens, we will now have the ability to choose to continue living in a world that is dependent on corporately owned power, or choose to break that unwritten social contract and build a new future and become a sustainable population of producers where we can collectively own and share our power and energy with each other.
That seems really interesting. And I know people who are watching this are going to be fascinated by it. So, Phil, how does someone who's interested in this area really get involved?
So all the solar solutions we're providing today for our homeowners, businesses, churches, and all of our strategic efforts are all future-proof using DC-coupled technology and fit the framework and design we have created to provide a path towards ensuring this DC future becomes a reality. And if you'd like to learn more and take the next step, schedule a conversation by going to rectifysolar.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate that. There's no question we're going to have to move away from fossil fuels because they're going to run out. You know, they're finite, whereas solar and wind are infinite, as some very learned people have tried to teach us over the course of our recent history. So thank you, Phil. Thank you so very much for bringing this information to us all.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my story with you, Star.
Absolutely.
God bless America.